Hello! Welcome to Center Saint Sister. This is a space where spirited, hurting, searching, faithful people come together and ask hard questions and listen to some really wise people share about how they have lived life deeply. If this episode spoke to you, I hope that you leave a review and subscribe. You can visit YouTube/Allison Sullivan for some really fun extras. I hope you hear something today that lets you know you are loved and helps you love one another. Welcome to Center Saint Sister. Maybe it was on Facebook. Maybe I was driving around my neighborhood's downtown. I don't remember the details, but a while ago, I had a thought after seeing there was a boxing gym practically in my neighborhood, and my thought was this: I want to do that. There were plenty more reasons to not do that, but this new idea, it was as loud as it was outrageous. I convinced myself I didn't belong a million different ways. I pictured a sweltering gym full of ripply bodies and shiny shorts and fast feet and furrowed brows, and then everyone, inevitably shirtless, stopping what they were doing while the music came to a halt right as I walked through the door. Because I tell my yoga students at least twice a week, change is on the other side of challenge, I made the phone call anyway. There's this line in the movie that I love, We Bought a Zoo, that says usually the things that we want in our lives but are afraid to go after, all they really take is 20 seconds of bravery. It only takes 20 seconds to make a phone call or ask the question or push post or open the door, and all of us can manage 20 seconds. That's it, 20 seconds. And so I learned how to box, and I loved it. I had new disciplines, new skills, new friends, new muscles. I was getting up at 5 a.m., and I didn't even know I could do that. I felt so proud of myself for saying yes to learning and yes to adventure and yes to that small voice that bravely said, I want to do that. Before boxing and before my 40s, maybe this lesson is a combination of something I really love and wisdom, I had spent a lot of time not working out because it wasn't a priority. And if I ever did make myself break a sweat, it was really only ever about vanity. You know, using my jeans as a guide. If they fit fine, great. I'm free. A little snug? Time to get moving. But the problem with that was that even if I thought I might have needed to lose a couple of pounds, I could hide the extra weight well enough so that nothing ever really changed. If it was about vanity, then I could always find loopholes, and then my excuses, they always won. But then I had a realization, and it changed everything. I don't work out to look good anymore. I work out to feel good. Because here's the deal for me. Finding something that I could do almost every day had completely transformed my outlook. I wasn't working out to look good. I was working out to feel good, and exercise matters. I couldn't have ever known that lesson if I hadn't have found something that I thought was worth doing every single day, or almost every single day. But moving every day, that's what came first. That's where the lessons happened. And then, when exercise wasn't about how I looked, but instead of how I felt, I could struggle with the top button of my jeans and I could just shrug my shoulders. When exercise wasn't about how I looked, but how I felt, I could struggle with irritability or powerlessness or grumpiness, sadness, Sour Patch Kid and Skittle cravings. And then I could make it a point to just hit it hard the next day. Exercise, it was about so much more than the top button of my jeans. And it turns out I like working up a good sweat. I like clearing my head a little and feeling the slightest bit sore. I had even come to tolerate heavy metal because my coaches insisted upon music genre was heavy metal because he swore it made us move faster. On the days that I exercise, I know that my life is more orderly. I know that it's more organized. I know that I eat better and drink more water and have more energy. And there's something about boxing in particular that made me feel like I could do anything. And so, for the life of me, it makes no sense to me why I am currently in the slump that I am. But this conversation with Sandra, better known as Big Fit I Run on Instagram, go ahead and follow now. This conversation might have just been the fire underneath me that I needed to get right back at it. I think you're going to love the many places she takes this conversation about exercise and our bodies and our complicated relationships to all of it. Would you like to hear more about life from a Catholic perspective? Then listen to host Chanel Shaw talk with special guests about culture, current events, and all things Catholic. You'll walk away with a better understanding of your faith and how to live it in the world today. Check out Ave Spotlight Podcast and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of the new and exciting episodes. You can also go sign up for all of the free content at AveMariaPress.com or by following Ave Maria Press on social media. Hello, Sandra. I'm so glad that you're here. This is an especially kind of funny episode for me because I complain all the time about running. So I'm so excited to learn from you. You're a marathon runner. You're an Instagram influencer. You have captured our attention by doing something so revolutionary as just loving and appreciating and respecting your own body. Unfortunately, there are so many women who are repulsed by or avoidant of their own bodies. And so much so that they can even start to dislike the person that lives there. And all of your messages on Instagram, they bring so much hope and encouragement and inspiration. It is all my hope today, because of some of the things that I just briefly mentioned, which I'm sure we'll get into more. I just want to absorb, if by osmosis, if that's possible, but I would just love to absorb your confidence and your perspective. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. And thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
This is going to be a lot of fun, I can tell. So Sandra, you have a larger body. And I can tell by how much weight that carries in our culture, just by how difficult that was for me to say.
Yes.
And I feel like your response to that would be, why? I do, And so there is such a beautiful unattachment that you have to our world standards or to culture. And so you just have this really steady and inclusive way that you are encouraging your followers to move freely without shame or judgment. And it resonates with so many people because we need it so badly. We have such complicated relationships with our bodies. So we are looking to your calm confidence. We all want to emulate that. I'm excited to learn from you. A lot of times I will have people introduce themselves to listeners who might not already know and love you by asking who and what they love. What are some things you love, Sandra?
Well, I love running. Sorry. I love running. So I'm Sandra. I'm a mother of 4. I happen to have gotten into running at 43 and I'm 47 now.
Okay.
So a late bloomer, as I call myself. And in 2017, I bought a treadmill and put it downstairs and started walking on it, and then slowly increasing the pace and started running. And then in 2018, I took my first run ever outside in public, went for a 7-kilometer run. Well, yes, that's what I thought, but nobody really cares.
Of course. Right.
Yeah. And went into this, like near my house, this park, ran for 7 kilometers, and I came back a different person. At least that's what I thought. And I'm going to stick to that story.
Yeah.
But came back a different person. I felt like I was shedding old skin from, dead skin.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe the endorphins and the serotonin that I got on that run. And really, it's truly, it's the honest truth when people say that they are chasing the high, and they really do chase the high when they're running. Obviously, you're not going to get a high every time, and not every run is going to be fabulous. And probably, I'd probably say 60% of the time you keep running because it's something that you want to do consistently. And then the other 40% of the time is the high. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's me. I work at a bank. I'm a financial advisor, on the side.
I need help there too.
It's a little bit different in Canada. We have things like TFSAs instead of 401s and things like that. But yeah, that's what I do on the side to pay for this addiction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what took you 43 years to start? Did something have to give? What happened?
So I've always worked out. Like, before I had my first child, I was always kind of working out, but it was always to lose weight because in my culture, so I'm actually Croatian, which is a country that's very close to Italy. And so from a very young age, when my mom saw how big I was going to be, and that I was going to the women's clothing section, even at, 10 years old to buy, or 12 years old to buy my confirmation dress, she was like, oh. So from a very young age, she was already, moving food aside that I shouldn't have, or telling me, don't eat that, don't eat bread. Yet she was baking bread every day. So up until 43, I always kind of kept working out, but it was more in the form of, punishment, or trying to lose weight, or trying to maintain weight loss after my fourth child. And 8 years ago, I actually started anxiety medication. And 8 years ago, my youngest was diagnosed with autism, and just things changed. And that changed my world, having this. Also, I had lost 50 pounds 8 years ago in 2014. And after I started taking the medicine, I had gained back the 50 pounds.
Yes.
So here I am sitting at 250 pounds, and I've been this weight for 4 years, maintaining it. And really what changed, I never ran outside. I never ran, period. It was always, HIIT workouts and strength training, and like the Stairmaster, and maybe I'd use the treadmill to warm up. But truly, when I bought that treadmill in 2017, and I was watching Netflix series on it and documentaries, and I started watching these running documentaries, and the things that people were saying were just, it's like they're a different breed of people. Runners are truly a different breed of people. When you run alone. So you have to be in your thoughts for so long. When you run alone, you have to like yourself, or at least put up with yourself, and be able to maintain that relationship with yourself as you run alone. But so the beauty of social media also, and like how the algorithm works, is that in that very beginning stage of my passion in running, I started immersing myself with only run influencers and only running people in the community. Like if you look at my For You page, or my, Instagram home feed, it's just runners. There's no beauty, there's no makeup tutorials, there's no DIY. I don't care about any of that stuff. I've been cutting my own hair for 12 years. Like I just don't. Like, it's just, I don't dye my hair. It's like I'm going gray on the sides, and I'm like, ooh, foxy, silver fox. But truly, I immersed myself when I started, and it was really that first run that changed everything. And I had started listening to podcasts and heard of people like Mirna Valerio and Rich Roll, and I was just like, wow, I want a part of this. And I signed up for, I think, 10 races in 2018, that first year. And one of them was a marathon in Seattle, and there was 3 half marathons, and I don't know, 5 10Ks. So I'm somebody who doesn't I go big or go home. My first race was a 10K trail race that had 2,000 feet of elevation.
I relate to that so much. I'm like, either 100% or not, I'm good.
As your producer shows up for your podcast producing, and yes, you go big or you go home, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, if you don't mind me asking, if this is too personal too soon, feel free to tell me to be quiet. But I'm curious, is your anxiety better managed by your activity, by your running? Yeah.
Oh,
I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. So there is a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Of course, yes.
And Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah. And he talks about, there's a couple of podcasts and a couple of books that have changed my life as well, as I kind of started this journey. And that is one of the books. And one of his quotes in the very, first 100 pages of the book is, there's 3 ways to heal trauma. And most runners, especially the ones that do really long distances, are running to heal some sort of trauma. And that's not a generalization. If you talk to any of them, there's some that have written books about it, and some trauma is severe, some is not severe. So I think we all have some sort of trauma. But so he talks about three ways to heal trauma. The first is counseling and therapy, which a lot of people do. The second is medication. So
Mm-hmm.
I did both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And the third way, use your body. Use your body to have visceral experiences that contradict the helplessness and rage you feel.
Wow. Wow.
Use your body to have visceral experiences that contradict the rage you feel.
Wow.
So when I heard that, I stopped dead in my tracks, replayed it because it was on Audible.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
And how many of us, you mentioned a second ago, how many of us hate being alone? The silence, the solitary, the solitude that comes with something running. And it's like, how many of us will fall asleep to a TV because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts? It's this giant act of avoidance, and it's fear. We're afraid. We so often don't know how to just feel our feelings without fear of being hijacked by them, and there's this emotional avoidance.
How many people make over plan so they're not alone?
Yes, the busyness.
How
the
many
busyness as a badge.
schedule?
Yes. Yeah, that's so interesting. And so it's like we're afraid of, these very visceral things that come with being alone, our chest caving in, feeling punched in the stomach, all of these very visceral things. And what he's saying is replace it. Replace it with trying to breathe, replace it with being exhausted, replace it with sore muscles. That's so interesting.
And the act of running itself is very different from other physical activities because, first of all, it gets the blood going. So that's the visceral part of it. Visceral means through the veins.
Okay.
And as you're shaking your body, it's actually calming down. And it's like, honestly, I think if everybody ran in this world, we'd just be happier people.
Right.
And that's why runners are seen as almost lunatics.
Yeah.
The ones who are like super, running is the best. Well, yeah, that's why it's the best, because you're happy. Yeah. I'm not saying running solves all of people's problems.
Wow, but you're onto something. You are onto something, and its fruit is unavoidable. So you mentioned earlier, just perhaps some formative things in your childhood. Do you have a first memory of or a first awareness of your body when maybe you either knew that you were different or knew how you were being perceived? Is there any one moment?
So I was born in Croatia and I came to Canada at 6. And so my parents' survival mechanism was, just to economically survive in Canada with no English, right? They spoke no English. And so there wasn't any like, oh, go play with your friends. No, it was stay in the house, take care of your brother and sister. We have to work. You have to pick up your brother and sister from school, walk home with him, and then you have to clean the house. And so there was like that emotional deficit there of, that loving kind of like, oh, how was your day? There was none of that. It was like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So that's first and foremost. Okay. Second is I needed to soothe myself with something because I wasn't getting anything as a child, and not to the fault of my parents. They didn't know any better. My parents are absolutely amazing. They came here with nothing, and they, bought and sold houses. They made themselves, they made a great life for us, but they just didn't know any better, and they repeated what they knew. But I needed to soothe myself with something. So what did I soothe myself with? I hid bread under my pillow, my mom's homemade bread. And I wanted to eat her mashed potatoes and her, things like that. So those are my memories. Are all of shameful things that, are not really shameful, but are of like wanting more food, because that's what I didn't get hugs. My mom told me she loved me first time in my life at 21 when I moved back to Europe.
Oh gosh. Out of desperation, she missed you.
Oh yeah. Whereas now with my own kids, I'm like,
Yeah, right. I know.
Night and day. Night
We're
and day.
obnoxious, right? I know. I feel that. Okay, so there are impossible beauty standards, and it sounds like you are resisting them really, really well. And beauty is like just this futile attempt now with all of the things we have at our disposal, whether it's, editing our photos with filters or photoshopping or whatever. I mean, it's impossible. There's perfect hair and perfectly white teeth and perfect waists and curves and all the nonsense. So I feel like a lot of times the message women get is it's your job to be beautiful. What are you trying to be, Sandra?
So first of all, you have the body that you have right now. So are you going to delay your own enjoyment of your body until you reach something that is maybe unattainable?
Right.
Or are you going to work with what you have now?
Right.
And so 4 years later on my journey, so this is my 4th year of doing 5 kilometers every day. So 2023 will be the start of the 5th year. But 4 years later, I have now mastered the art of consistency, which has healed my self-worth. And then anything I choose to do after that is likely more possible than starting with a deficit of self-worth.
Right.
And self-confidence.
Wow, the consistency. Interesting. It starts with your consistency. Wow.
And if
discipline.
Exactly. And if you don't trust your body, which most women don't, if you don't trust your body going into a journey, how are you going to rely on yourself to make good decisions?
Right, right.
So I've built trust with myself now that is unbreakable. But did anybody tell me to do this before?
Gosh, that's beautiful.
They just tell you to go on a diet and go keto and go paleo or whatever. And it's like, no, you have to build consistency of doing something over and over again to build trust with yourself. And maybe you already have it, right? Maybe you already have it because everybody is so different, right? Our childhood, all of our childhoods are so different. And what was instilled in you as a child is completely different from what was instilled in me. So that's where the baseline is. You have to start from there. What were the words that somebody was telling you as a child? Were they, you're useless, or you're stupid, or you can't finish this, or you can't finish that? Why did I not use a marathon training plan for my first 4 marathons? Because I thought I was useless. Wow. And because I thought that I was going to not finish them, like I didn't finish my grade 9 math report. That's why it took me 4 years to actually this year use a marathon training plan with confidence, knowing I was not going to quit it.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned I had 2 thoughts while you were talking, and one of them is, I feel like these messages that we receive, they might not even be explicit. It might be an implicit message that you've received. And a highly sensitive person, such as myself and many others, I'm learning a lot about that recently, is I can tell how you feel about me by a facial expression or a shift, the way you shifted in your seat or whatever. And so I don't think that, your parents have to be outright saying you're useless for you to know that that's kind of how they felt. So I think those messages can be tricky.
There's a word in Croatian that is baby pig.
Okay. And I'm all ears.
It's called prasica.
Okay.
And I was called that. Prasica. Oh, yeah. Prasica. I was called that all the time.
Baby pig.
Like you, and when I think
was it a term of endearment or intended to be?
No, it was a term to describe, my lack of following through on something, my lack of getting good grades, or my lack of whatever. Whereas now my parents worship me. You know what I mean? Like they're at that, my parents moved to this city where I am now. They adore my kid. Like, what I mean? Like, it's just so
God
different.
Bless
like
us all. We just did the best we could.
they didn't know. They were just, my mom was so stressed out. My dad was so
I
stressed
love
out.
the
Like,
grace you have because we have so many more
oh,
resources available to us to do a better job.
not to mention when I was 33, I found out what happened to my parents in their
Mm,
childhood, their
yeah,
trauma.
right.
So you imagine two people who had very traumatic events happen to them when they were small,
Hmm.
get together,
Hmm.
get married,
Hmm.
and then have three children
Yeah.
who they pass their
And
trauma
then mess
on
up some
to.
kids in some new and inventive ways. Okay, the other thing that I had a thought while you were talking earlier, and you were talking about why wait? Why
Yeah.
wait to,
Mhm.
feel at home in your own skin or feel joyful as you are? I had this sounds so silly, but it was really profound for some reason. But I gained a bunch of weight over COVID. I was just uncomfortable. I didn't feel like myself. I was sad. It was leading to there were a lot of factors, but depression was certainly
Mhm.
in the whole mix of the things that were going on. And I wasn't getting dressed, which ended up kind of spiraling into other things and staying at home and not getting out of bed and on and on and on. I'd been in sweats
Mhm.
for like 2.5 years is the point. And so I was, lamenting this sad statistic with a friend. And I was like, I just don't have any jeans that fit me. And she looked at me and goes, go buy new jeans. What are we doing here? And she was like, come on, we are going to buy new jeans right now. And for whatever reason, like that was so profound. It's like, this is who you are right now. We're going to love this person that is this size right now. And you're going to get dressed and you're going to like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Gosh.
And if you had not followed her advice and stayed in the jogging pants and then attempted to do any like chores or any projects, you would have carried that self-loathing with you
Yeah.
while you self-loathed yourself. And imagine the outcome
Interesting. Yeah.
of that while you're self-loathing yourself versus the outcome
Yeah.
of being in those new jeans and doing the same thing. The outcomes are completely
That's
different.
so interesting. What a great point. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
It's but we're taught. We see commercials. We're taught go back and wear your high school jeans or go back and it's like how can I'm not the same body after four children.
Right.
I'm not even the same
Yeah. Why is that a
um,
thing? Why are we talking about that? Yeah.
physiological makeup
Right.
because the society teaches us this that our worth is only determined by our pant size.
Yeah. Outward appearance.
Pant size. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
My worth is determined by how many marathons I run. That's what I tell me. My worth
Mhm.
is determined. I'll tell myself whatever my worth is
That's right.
determined by.
Right. I decide. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Okay, so I was thinking, as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing how much of your, you include your past and your present and your future, your emotional health, your spirituality. All of it is so intermingled and connected. And I think that we have a tendency to live these really disconnected lives. It's like we have the buckets, and it's like this is the emotional health bucket and this is the physical bucket, and we're all the while thinking of our bodies as kind of just this machine, when really it is this wildly complex, divinely inspired, knit together, complex organism, right? Do you have any have you always like enmeshed all of these different parts of yourself? Did you used to live really disconnected? What's your experience with connection, and what are the tools that help you live a really fully embodied life? I mean, I know that running is obviously, the easy answer, but how'd you get there?
No, running is just the vehicle that I'm in. But you still have to go from spot to spot. So you
Hmm.
still have to go from day to day, but you can choose the vehicle that you want to be in. So when you mention the buckets, I have a metaphor that I always use, and I call it the shit and piss bucket because people sit in their own shit and piss, and it's warm and cozy and no, and
That is
only
quite the
that
visual,
person.
Sandra.
I know, but imagine this. We know that you're sitting in shit and piss, like especially when we know somebody who's very depressed or very
Yeah, yeah.
like suicidal or whatever,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They're sitting in this stuff that they think doesn't smell.
Mm.
But when you're looking at it from the outside, you're like, oh man, you need to get out of that. And
Yeah.
so, sure, running is, like I said, running is just the vehicle, but this journey and this is one thing I want to say, has been so lonely. This has been one of the most loneliest things that I've ever endured, because you have just yourself to rely on. There have been so many nights, so many mornings that I'm doing my 5K and I'm like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
It's minus 17 outside, or my treadmill broke last year for like 4 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, minus 17, minus 20, raining, snow, and I have to do my 5K. That's my unconditional, non-negotiable every single day.
Whole person
And so,
care.
yes. And when you're in this journey and you're like, this is because nobody wants to join you. Nobody wants to join you. How many of your friends are like, no, my idea of a podcast is not fun.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
Right.
You're the eccentric one who sees value in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's, and so have I always been, connected? Yes. But the difference is now, the thoughts that come through my head now versus the thoughts that came through my head 4 years ago are 100% absolutely contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same person. And that's the beauty of neuroplasticity. You can change the messages in your head by doing something over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So another amazing podcast that changed my life during this journey was podcast episode 405 with Rich Roll and Huberman Lab.
Awesome.
And that was when he said to me, and I wish we knew this as children. I wish we were told this at some point in our teenage life, that my mom used to say, oh, you have no willpower. You can't finish a diet, or you can't lose 10 pounds, or, and I'm just, and so my whole life I grew up with the fact that I thought I had no willpower.
Yeah.
Again, I couldn't complete something.
Right. Yeah.
And when I heard this podcast and he said that first of all, our nervous system controls our brain. Our nervous system controls our brain. Our memories are held in our nervous system. So your nervous system will do anything to protect you, including when you start a new habit.
Wow.
Because it will go back and it'll say, no, you don't want to do that. That will hurt you. And in the first year of doing the 5K, you will not believe how many times that came through in my brain. And it kept saying, why are you doing this? You know, you're going to fail. Like, what's even the point of starting this? And then in year 2,
that old familiar path.
Unbelievable. And I'll finish it with this, but year 2, my brain was like, okay, fine. We gave you year 1. You had year 1. You're not doing year 2.
Yeah.
That's what it was saying to me.
That's awesome. But that's a whole year. That is a whole year of discomfort. And we are always trying to dodge
But look at how
discomfort.
long it took me.
Yes.
People dodge discomfort thinking, okay, start a new habit. 21 days for this, 45 days for that. No.
Yeah.
It takes years. Imagine that you have one character. So imagine I was like this for my whole life at 43. How can you erase that after 21 days?
That's right.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Good for you. Yeah. Thank you for being honest about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Society sets up people for failure. They say, okay, if you haven't mastered a habit in 90 days, then you're a loser. Are you kidding me? It took me 4 years. And I'm still working on it.
So so it took years. That's costly, right? But isn't a caring and loving and affirmative and attentive relationship with yourself worth it?
Yes, but how many people don't get to that?
Right. And so instead we just live with our sleep disturbed and our appetites are all wonky.
Yes.
And it's like the next person that touches me, I'm going to scream. You know, I mean, there's just this irritability. It's like unpredictable bowels, what have you. I mean, you know, there's all these prices that we pay for the living the other way in comfort, or I don't know, sloth, whatever. And then it's like, okay, the alternative is we all want change, but we're too afraid to die. You know,
and
it's
they want it now.
That's right.
They want it now.
Yeah.
They want it in 3 months.
I feel like I can have, and hit on this a lot, this inner critic. You mentioned this inner critic that's telling you you're not going to finish. And so, and for me, it's like, I'm just going to go ahead and shame myself before anybody else, can have a whack at me. And it makes me take steps back when really I'm ready to take steps forward. It's like, I might have made a decision. And so what are some things that you've done or surrounded yourself with to kind of turn that voice down and turn another voice up? How do we be our own cheerleaders? How are you your own cheerleader?
I'm glad you said this. Okay. I published a magazine last January. Okay. So after I published the magazine, I sold almost 300 copies just on Instagram. Nothing, right? 32 pages, glossy, whatever. After that, I got depressed. Because, like you said, you were ready for more, but your nervous system was telling you, no, you're not going to succeed at this because you should just stay where you are.
Yeah.
So you're not going to succeed at this and make, a semi-annual or a quarterly issue. You should just stay with the one because you're not good enough to follow through on having a real magazine.
Yeah.
But this is all part of the journey. It took me 6 months to finally announce issue 2 because I was going back and forth. My nervous system was like, you know what? Just don't bother because we know you. We know your pattern. We know your past. You're not gonna make this a real thing. And that's because we're scared of success. That's because we're scared of getting bigger and better. We're going to stay where we know.
Because when we step out with creativity or whatever, anytime we step out, we're giving people a way to either celebrate us or ignore us. And I feel, I don't know that there's much worse than just
not even
being ignored altogether. Okay, what is it?
No, it's not even that. We're afraid of our own success because that means that we're actually living up to our potential that we knew we had, but somebody else told us we didn't.
Yeah.
You don't care what somebody thinks about you. I don't care what someone thinks about me. You think somebody, you know how many troll comments I get?
I kind of care, Sandra.
No, I don't think you do. I think you care more about making your podcast amazing versus if you cared what somebody thought about you, you wouldn't even be doing a podcast because that's like that's out of the box. Right? I don't care what somebody thinks about me, but it's my inner critic that's telling me you're not good enough for more.
Okay.
Are you good enough for more? That's, I'm getting goosebumps. That's the problem is we bring ourselves down to a level that's comfortable. We stay in our own mini shit and piss bucket because we know if we step out of it, but we have to step out of it.
Okay. So you are your own cheerleader by accepting new challenges, by shutting up your inner critic with different messages, replacing that message. What's the answer? Yeah.
So I'll tell you something, even with this, and this marathon training plan is a metaphor for what's happening in my life right now. So
running is always a metaphor.
But it really is like, even
it really is.
I have this marathon training plan. It's, I write it 5 weeks out and I have one of those mom calendars that you can erase, the dry eraser, right? So I was equating, and this sounds so stupid, but I was equating my self-worth to following the marathon training plan to a T. But I just had an implant, like a dental implant put in on Tuesday. So that's an evasive surgery with a titanium screw put in your mouth,
in your face.
jaw. Hello. Yeah.
So,
and I was like, you know what? I'm going to rest for 2 days so that I don't break my stitches. But 2 years ago, I would have put the messages in my head that I'm a loser for not sticking to the plan. And not running on Monday or whatever, even though I did 12 kilometers on Sunday and 21 on Saturday.
And that goes back to what you said earlier about the repetition, the consistency, the discipline has made you trust yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
And so it's the
So
trust that keeps getting me, like what you had asked, what's getting me through each level? It's the trust now that I trust myself.
yeah, yeah. You've proven your
Yes.
yeah, you've proven it to yourself, your
Accountability.
resiliency.
Accountability to myself. I've proven it now.
Yeah.
And it's freaking crazy.
When do you feel the most at home in your own skin? Like, and maybe this is like oddly specific. I mean, the answer can be oddly specific if you want, but when do you feel the most at home in your own skin? When do you feel the healthiest?
When I record myself running, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where somebody goes, what I think I look like.
Yeah,
And then they
of
show
course.
the turtle of what I look like.
Yeah.
When I record myself, I'm like, yes. Yeah. Right? Like I'm just like, yeah. And then I see, I don't know, I get one of my kids to get on their bike and I'm like, okay, take a video of me running, from the side. And I'm like, oh, but I feel the most in my skin when I am running and I watch back the video and I see the smile on my face and I'm like, I am so freaking happy. And that's now carried over into my relationship with my kids.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Always.
Big time. And I'm not going to go into that right now because that's a whole other conversation.
I was just going to say that really is a whole other podcast about how it would affect how you love yourself affects every other relationship you've had. I heard this quote and it said, you can only meet others as deeply as you've met yourself. And so I can only love you to the degree that I have accepted. I can only accept you to the degree that I've accepted myself. I think there's something really profound about that. You're right about as far as that being a huge topic that we could dive into forever. So to end, Sandra, here's my favorite thing is, your confidence. It's absolutely contagious. I was telling my husband about what I was doing today and we were having coffee this morning and I was really excited about our interview. And so I was describing to him a little bit about who you are. And I'm like, yeah, people will just ask her, so how much weight have you lost running? And that you're like 0 pounds. That's not why I do it. It's just totally revolutionary. I love it so much. But what is, you have a lot of people watching you for this reason because your confidence is so contagious. What are you, and this can be our last question, we can end on this, but what are you hopeful for those people, for the people watching, for the people trying to take in your messages? What are you hopeful for?
I hope that they find the strength within themselves to show up for themselves like I've showed up for myself. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else after that is doable. If you can find the strength within yourself just to put one foot forward in front of the other and move your body, you've already ticked off the box of your self-worth. You've already ticked one tick mark for yourself that day.
Yeah. It's really good. Thank you. I really do feel, I don't know, I'm afraid to say it out loud, but I feel a new motivation, I know, to get out there and use my body in a different way because I do. I will choose comfortable routes or you know what it is? It's things that I know I'm good at. It's like I pick battles I know I can win. And there's something about running that feels, like just it might outdo me. So I love the challenge of being up for the challenge.
It's so funny you mentioned that because even in this journey, and I'll make it quick, but even in this journey, there was a point where, this is how crazy our minds are. So it was about 1.5 years into the 5K a day. And it was, I was lacing up and my brain said, you're not a real runner because you stick to 5K a day. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like what garbage did you find now? Like, where did you? But that was what I had said to myself because I was like, oh, you're staying in your comfort zone. You're only doing 5K a day. You're not a real runner, even though I do a marathon every year, which means I have to do a long run. But still, I had managed to find
a loophole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's,
Yeah.
and so when you realize that,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go like this,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You're not saying that to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a wallpaper. It's like the wallpaper of our brain, and we can change it. We're not powerless here. There's something every now and then, if I'll get stuck in a thought I don't like, I'll have this if something's spinning, you can stick out your leg and stop the spin. It's like, nope. And the sentence that always goes with it is, I am not powerless here. Okay. Thank you so much, Sandra. I need to know how we can support you. First of all, tell us about your Instagram and where to follow there. And then I need to know about your magazine. I need to know all about both issues. Where can we get it?
So Big Fit I Run is my Instagram handle and my TikTok handle. And then Run Your Life is the magazine. It has its own little Instagram page. Okay. And you can order a copy. There's still a few copies left of the first issue, and the second issue is coming out in December.
Awesome.
This is something that I dreamt about because not one article in here is written by a professional writer. It is written by women who share something that they've overcome. Mm-hmm. Whether it was being hit by a car, being in a wheelchair, and then getting up and recovering from that, running a 70.3 Ironman in a, larger body, finishing an Ironman, 70.3 Ironman with 3,000 feet of elevation. It's 25 women who wrote articles just about being themselves. And that's what I wish I had when I was younger, instead of Sassy Magazine, Mary Claire, Cosmopolitan. Do you remember those magazines?
Of course, 17 magazine. Oh my gosh, yes.
17. Yeah. Those magazines destroyed us. Mm-hmm. There was nobody like us when we were growing up that said, make your body strong.
Strong.
Make your body as strong as possible. Yeah. Show your kids what to do when they're stressed out.
Amen.
Show them by doing it.
Yeah. Yes.
And now
so you didn't have it, so you made it. I love it.
I didn't have it. I made it. I made it.
And we salute you. We are so grateful. I love how you have approached your body with curiosity instead of, fear or dread, or even worse, avoidance and repulsion. I just love how calmly you accept what is. And I'm really, really grateful for you.
One day I will lose weight. And when that day comes, watch out.
No holds barred after that. This was a blast, Sandra. I'm happy to know you. So guys, please go follow Big Fit I Run. Yes? Is that right? Did I say that right? Okay. On both platforms, Instagram and TikTok, and look into the very needed magazine. Thank you. I'm looking forward to keeping in touch. This was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, but are just listening, I must point out that Sandra's shirt says, I don't give an F about your diet, Susan. Okay. And so clearly Susan is a skinnier Karen, but I am so delighted by what you have on. Please tell me that that's your merch.
It's coming to my store.
Yes!
It is going to be my merch. And the other thing I'm going to add to it for all the women who want to start running in bigger bodies, the shirt that I've created, it's actually being shipped right now as a, what's it called? Like a sample, it says IDGAF about your pace, Susan.
Okay.
Your race pace.
Nice.
Because women are scared
of
starting running and thinking that they're too slow. So again, we have all these things in our head that we're stopping ourselves from doing because of preconceived notions about what it should look like.
That's right. So good. All right, guys, y'all know where to follow. Click all the links, buy all the things. See ya. Do you have the important task of leading people to worship through music at your parish? Liturgy.com makes it easy to plan music and prepare the liturgy for your parish. You can prepare for Mass more easily than ever with the features that you love, which is the ability to save and share and print your outlines, audio and sheet music previews, expert song suggestions, and now it is more affordable than ever with 3 new subscription options: Premium, Plus, and a free basic option. Join today by visiting liturgy.com just in time to prepare for the Advent and Christmas season. And if you'd like to check it out for yourself, just go sign up for a free subscription. Hello, sinners, saints, brothers, and sisters. Hi, Taylor. Hi, Beef.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so Sandra, I thought, took this really simple topic of running and made it like way super deep. And I wanted us to all three be together because all of us are really pretty dedicated, disciplined, athletic people. And none of us, everybody needs beefy space. Get on YouTube right now for that furrowed brow. But all three of us are avoiding this aspect of our lives. And I imagine that it's for more complicated reasons than just, I don't feel like it. I don't know. Maybe it is that simple. What are some of y'all's thoughts?
So I loved listening to her tenacity, just the way that she talked about it. Here's something: I cannot make myself exercise. I fully appreciate that you prioritize and make time for the things that you want to do. I am very busy. I do a million things. I say that I want to exercise and I don't. I'm a liar and I don't know why. But she talked about chasing the high. And like, I was like, well, I wrote that down. I was like, well, I could get behind that. Like, maybe I could choose the high. Like, I don't want to exercise, but like, that's intriguing. So I just liked even the way that she framed it.
Yeah. Interesting. What about you, Tay?
Yeah, I thought about myself and Kristen a lot while I was listening to this, because like both of us are like incredibly talented and very busy and doing a lot of different things. And I feel like, it's just kind of a curse to be so good at things that like you don't have time for things like working out. So I wanted to know what Allison's excuse is.
So Kristen and Taylor are too busy excelling at at their mini crafts. For a long time, it was that I just hate my body. Like, I just can't be bothered to like put on things that would be appropriate for working out. Like the thought of leggings made me cringe. And so that's not the case anymore. And so now I just think that it's a bad habit. It's what she was saying about consistency. Whatever you are consistently doing is what you're going to keep doing. Well, you can consistently work out. And I know that that's true. I mean, there was a time in my life where I was getting up at 5 a.m. doing very, very hard things and sweating a lot. And it always felt really good. And I cannot for the life of me understand why I can't reflect back on that high, if you will, and want to chase it again. I can't understand why this seems to win every time if I let go, even just a little.
That's super interesting because I think you're so athletic and you can do anything, as I'm sure you are too, Taylor. I just don't know the history. And so I just think I'm not good at it. And so if I was better at it, I think I would do it, but you are better at it and you're not doing it. Right. Like, so I just was so proud of myself because I signed up for a class that someone like brought to me on a silver platter. And I tried to do bar last night. Taylor, are you familiar with bar?
I am. There's two different types, and I'm not going to, I don't have any follow-up questions.
I'm down for the 1 hour, the 2 bars followed by an E. I mean, I thought I would finish it and like want to like overspend on like a class pack and like come back because I would have the high. No. I was very clear that I never wanted to do that again. And not only was I sore the next day, but a disc slipped and I like was in extreme pain for several days. And just now I'm getting back. And so, I mean, that's what happens when I try to exercise.
And last time, Beef, at Orange Theory, you got rhabdo.
I did. I
got rhabdo.
So not even trying that hard.
You've had a few bad experiences. So, okay, but what about that? I really think that's interesting I think that she is an expert at accepting where her body is right now. She said with such calm acceptance, I might lose weight one day. But I need to love my body right now. And I think that is, Beef, the two things that happened to you is a sign of, I don't love where I'm at right now. You're so used to excelling and achieving that you're like, no, I'm not going to come in as a beginner. I'm not going to be mediocre at something. And you have pushed yourself to injury both times. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh, yes, that's my entire life. It has been a constant spiral. my history with athleticism is now ancient history. And all of the, like, every time I get inspired, so like hearing her talking about the consistency was good, but it was also like a little deflating for me, just because every time I try to get back into it, I'm doing great for 2-3 weeks. I'm doing something athletic 6 out of 7 days, and inevitably 2 to 4 weeks in, I get an injury and I can't move for 2 weeks, and then now I'm 5 pounds heavier because I couldn't move, so it's like that's what kind of has me stuck, is the every time I try, things get worse. So it's just kind of that balance of like, I joked a couple months ago, like I'm too fat to lose weight, like I weigh too much where my body's falling apart when I try to do anything physical.
So I think it is, what it reminds me of a little bit, just to go back an episode, is to go back to what Chico was saying about, what, in a time in my life when prayer is hard, I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, and I'm going to put my phone in another room, and I'm going to promise myself that I'm just going to have this 3-minute prayer. So I think that there are ways to ease into this when we are as lost as the three of us are. All right.
I was going to say, she talked about building trust with yourself that's unbreakable. And that stood out to me too, right? Because I don't trust my body to be able to do anything when I do stuff, like you're saying, I do too much and then I hurt myself. And so I think what you're saying, like just start with something little and slowly build a little trust and then build on it rather than trying to jump all the way in.
Yeah. I like that too. She talked a little bit about being afraid of your own success, which when she was saying it didn't really resonate with me, because I'm like, I am not afraid of my own success. I want more and more. And more. But I do think that there are, places where I can feel in over my head where what you just said, I don't trust myself anymore. And so in that way, it can feel that, idea of success can feel overwhelming, and not having the trust that you've built upon, leaves you a little, floundering. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So do we need a Sinner Saint Sister Pact? Do we need to put our hands in the middle of a circle and commit to like a 3-minute walk? What are we doing together, guys? Seriously, any ideas?
Okay, my like what I've been doing, because I had a lot of rude awakenings over the last couple of months, just with some health issues. After being in this downward spiral for so long of like trying to do something physical and getting hurt because I weigh too much, I was like, I've never tried to attack my eating, because I've always just been able to solve it by working out, and I can't now. Right. So I've attacked my eating and lost 10 pounds in a month. So like, I think eventually I'll be able to, like, I can't focus on the physical activity right now because I fall apart every time I do. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is continuing to essentially follow the rules that every 4-year-old is taught about how to eat, and finally doing those things.
No, that's really good, because success is such a big motivator. And so if you're feeling, and it's always works as dominoes for me. It's like, success in one area of my life ends up kind of spilling into other areas. I think that's a great start. What about you, Beef?
That's so interesting that you just say that, Taylor, because I am a vegetarian. I eat really, really healthy. So I've got that part down, I feel like, but then that's like,
well, that's why you weigh a third of what I do, Kristen.
Well, and that's why I stopped. And that's why I'm like not strong at all, and do something little and like pull stuff out of alignment in my back. So, I mean, I think a short walk, it is literally supposed to be legit fall-ish this week in Houston. And so I will commit to a 3-minute walk. No, not a 3 minute walk, but one lap.
What about with those little hand weights, Beef? Let's get you some, listen, we don't have any qualms or reservations about being old. We embrace this, and you could get those little ankle
Don't you think that's embracing it a little too much? Like, there's a step too far, and I think that might be it. Go on your walk, but please don't bring the weights
has
for
a skirt on it too.
For sure it does. For sure it does.
Okay, and I am going to start. This is always a good entry place for me as far as physicality. I'm going to start being regular with yoga. Okay, we're going to start there.
Okay.
All right.
I thought you were going to one up us and be like, I'm just going to start small and run a marathon tomorrow.
Okay, love you guys. This is a great episode. I think needed all the way around.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. A very special thank you to all guests and sponsors. A really special thank you to Taylor Schroll for mixing and editing. For more content, you can head over to Instagram at Allison M. Sully and TikTok at Sullivan Family TikTok. You can also check out Forte Catholic and subscribe there, where you have a 25% chance of hearing me co-host. I am so grateful for all of the love and support that we offer each other here.
To Today's show was a production of Allison Sullivan in conjunction with the Forte Catholic Podcast Network. For more great Catholic podcasts, head on over to fortecatholic.com/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.